So, welcome to Foundry. In this video, we're going to be going through my ultimate beginner guide. I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks to help you out in the game. And to start things off, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see my hotbar, and you'll see B bar 1 out of 1 to the left-hand side of it. You are going to start this game with 3 hotbars enabled, and you can press the default key, which would be tab, to cycle through them. However, I don't like that, so what you can do is you can change your key bindings. So now I've got my inventory on tab, and I put the hotbar to B. But also, if you go to your settings, if you have a look down here in the gameplay settings, you've got amount of hotkey bars. You can change that, so I put mine to 1, but you can go all the way down to having 10 different hotbars. And next up is to make sure that you check all of the info tabs that the game shows you in menus, especially if you're a little bit stuck. So for an example, if we go to my inventory, like in the crafting here, you'll see there's an eye. Hover over it, it's going to tell you that left clicking is going to craft 1 item, right clicking will craft 5, whereas if you hold shift and right click, it's going to craft 100, and then if you shift and left click, it will craft maximum. So right now, if I was to shift and left click on these conveyor tier 1s, I would craft all 41 of those. But also, if you have a look under products, like you've got the ingredients going in, you've got the products coming out, each time you click this, you're actually crafting 2 conveyors. So sometimes it's more than just 1. For an example here, if you get 6 plates and 4 rods, you're actually going to produce 10 building blocks. But always make sure you check those info panels, like down here in the inventory. If I shift and right click, it's going to split the stack. So here I've got 123 plates. If I shift and right click, I can then choose the amount I want to split. This is going to give you a lot of helpful tips hovering over the information panels, which is going to help you get up and running. So next up is to make sure that you have space in between your machines, because your production lines can get really messy. If you have a look, we have production lines going over each other, under each other. There's a lot of stuff going on. So make sure you have some space, especially because your loaders take up 2 blocks. So if I was to put these any closer, I wouldn't be able to have the loaders like this. And yeah, realistically, you don't want your factory getting as messy as mine and Pete's is. But one thing you can do, which is going to really help out, is you can actually build underground. You can go above ground too, but like down here, I've got some drone miners set up to get these mineral rocks, and then I've got a conveyor belt that leads all the way back to the main base, so that it's out of the way and it's not too messy. So, like, realistically, you've got a lot of freedom when it comes to building. Just make sure that you've got enough space. And then next up is building blocks, which are these foundation blocks here. They carry your power through them. So you don't need to constantly go and put new biomass burners. Like if I was to set up these smelters, I wouldn't need to put a biomass burner or a burner generator anywhere near them, because the foundation is going to carry the power. And I highly recommend that you actually start working your way towards burner generators as quick as you possibly can. Because if I go into the research interface, or you can actually use a hotkey, if I press G, it goes into the research tab as well. Then at the very start of the game, you're going to get an emergency beacon, then your assembler. Then if we come over here, you want to go to basic infrastructure, you want to go to the ore scanner ignium, and work your way down to the burner generator, because it gives you a lot more power. A biomass burner is going to have a max output of 600 kilowatts. And then if we come over to the mass production of the burner generators that Pete dealt with, you are going to see, if we get to the other side of them, these give you 1.8 megawatts instead of the 600 kilowatts that a biomass burner gives you. And not only that, these can be automated. The biomass burners are you have to manually put biomass into them all the time, and it gets frustrating. So with your research, focus on the burner generators, because they're going to save you a lot of hassle when it comes to powering up your factory. And next up, when it comes to mass deconstructing, because if we press F, you're going to go into demolition mode. And if I was to hover over this, I would demolish this. But if we go shift and F, it goes into mass demolition or bulk demolition. And if I click once, I can then put a grid. But if you have a look, pay attention to the top middle of your screen, because it will say size 9x9. And you do the horizontal first, but then you go to vertical, and you can change the height. So you'll see there 9x8, and the height is 35. But this also goes underground too. So you'll see here we're going 37 blocks down. So just be careful and make sure that if you're just wanting to get rid of one layer, you get the height, which is can be a little bit awkward. There. Make sure you get the height to 1. But yes, you can demolish things in bulk. It doesn't have to be 1 by 1. So it's really helpful when it comes to conveyor belts and things like that. And another good thing about this game, tied into that tip, is if you destroy something, you get the whole thing back. You don't lose any resources or anything like that. So if we come over to this smelter, for an example, if I go to demolition mode, I hold it down and demolish, I get the smelter back. And then if that was a mistake, I can then just go into my inventory, grab it into my hotbar, cycle through, and then I can just place it down again. So you lose absolutely nothing. Even if you deconstruct a conveyor belt, you get the resource that's on it as well. So you never lose anything from deconstruction or demolition. And something I absolutely love about this game is, for an example, we've got all of these yellow conveyor belts. These are tier 2, but you do start off with tier 1, which is the red ones, and you'll see that the conveyor belt itself moves a lot slower when it's tier 1. So when it comes to upgrading from, like for an example, from tier 1 to tier 2, you don't actually have to deconstruct or demolish absolutely everything and then start all over again. What you can do is just grab your tier 2 conveyor belts and slap them on top of the tier 1, and it will automatically upgrade them for you. And it's the same with the assemblers. If we go back up, when it comes to assemblers, because we've got ours at level 2 at the moment, tier 2, all you have to do is place it on top. It's going to keep all of your recipes and everything intact. Nothing's going to change. You can just do a straight upgrade, which is so helpful. So don't go around demolishing everything when you're upgrading from tier 1 to tier 2, because you can just place it on top and it's an automatic upgrade. And then next up is if you press Alt and U, it's going to bring up the camera tools. And it says that it's a developer tool. But if we go and we click on Show UI up here, we can turn off the UI so you can get some really nice screenshots. And also on top of that, if we go here where it says plus cam default, you are going to go into a fly-in camera. So you don't have control of your character, but with the UI off, you can get some really nice screenshots. And then all you want to do if you want to go back to your character is press Alt and U again, and then you want to go to remove cam. So you can do a lot of stuff. You can change your cam speed and things like that. And then next up is if you press Shift, Alt, and O, you only have to do it the first time, because after you've done it, you've enabled the debug menu, and you just have to press O to toggle it. But when you're in this debug menu, if you want to play this way, what you can do is, for an example, you can click on one of these. So say I wanted a load of tier 3 assemblers. Then what I can do is just click here. It's going to put them all into my inventory. And then you can advance time by an hour. You can give yourself unlimited jetpack. You can change your walk speed and your sprint speed. You can do auto research. So it's just a debug menu within the game. And if we go to my inventory, you'll see that, yeah, I have a bunch of tier 3 assemblers now. So what I'm going to do, because I don't want to play this way, is I'm going to chuck all the stuff that I got out of the debug menu into there, and I'm going to move on because, yeah, I really don't want to play that way, but there is a debug menu that you can use if you wish to do so. And in Foundry, you don't have a conveyor splitter. What you have instead is a balancer. So if we go here, you'll see if I go to, I don't actually have any on me. So if I go to crafting, you'll see that you've got a conveyor balancer 1, then you get the tier 2s as well, and all the tier 2 does is instead of having tier 1 conveyor, it's going to have tier 2. But what this does is gives you the ability to have something coming in from one line and it separates it into 2. So it's essentially a splitter. But what you can do with this is you can toggle the priority for the input and also the output. So leaving it in the middle is going to have a balanced input and output. And then if I wanted to, I could toggle this so I prioritize outputting to the left, or I could click it and prioritize outputting to the right. So it's actually a really good kind of splitter, even though it's called a balancer. And it's going to save you a lot of hassle instead of having to, basically set up a bunch of different conveyor lines. You'll see that these balancers, we have them absolutely everywhere. So we've got one here, we've got one over here, we've got one back here. We've actually got a couple back here. Then they're all over here as well. You'll see there's a balancer there. We've got one here, there's a couple here, we have loads because of the production we are doing at the moment. So next up is copying and pasting, and this game does it very well. So if I press V on my keyboard, which is the default key to bring up my little pad thing, you'll see that my current target is a building block. Whereas if I wanted to copy the tier 2 conveyor, if I look at it and then press Q, it's going to copy that and then I can start placing it down, providing I've got it in my inventory. And then if we bring it up again, you can do something even better with it. If we go to an assembler, you'll see here that the recipe is we've got plates being put into the machine. We've got machinery parts on the output. So what you can do, if you have a look at the quick actions, you can do Control and Q to copy this target with its exact settings. And you can also do Shift and right mouse to copy its configuration. So for an example, if I place down a tier 2 assembler, when you can see the screen, you're going to see that you have to configure it. So you've got to come into here and you've got to select what you want to actually produce. So if I dismantle it instead, if I was to go to here and bring up my little pad thing, I can just press Q and I can copy it. So I can do the tier 2 assembler. Whereas if I bring up the little pad and I do Control and Q, it's going to copy the machine with the settings. So once you place it down, you're going to see that it's producing science packs, like this one is producing science packs. But what you can also do is, if we deconstruct this one again, is if I place it down normally, and we have no recipe selected, what you can do is you can come over here, bring out your little pad, and all you've got to do is go shift and right mouse, and you copy that crafting recipe. Then over on the one here, instead of going all the way through the configuration menu and everything, if you shift and left click, it's going to just put that exact recipe on it. So that's really, really helpful when it comes to like setting up a mass production line. It just makes it a lot easier instead of having to manually select all the recipes and everything like that. And then last but definitely not least is your tier 1 conveyor belts. So not the yellow ones, the red ones that we have over here. Where are they? Back over here. This tier 1 conveyor will move 160 items per minute. So if we go into the crafting, you'll see here next to conveyor 1 recipe, you've got on the right hand side conveyor 1, items per minute 160, and it's a 1 by 1 by 1. If you go to the tier 2, it doubles, it goes up to 320. So the tier 2, the yellow conveyor belts, are twice as fast. But when you start this game off, you're only going to have access to the tier 1. And with it moving 160 items per minute, if we have a look at these drone miners, you're going to see here, if I can get a good sort of view of it, yield last minute is 44. It's somewhere between 40 and 60 per minute that these drone miners actually yield. So what you want to do is you want to set up 4 of these drone miners around, like to max out a conveyor belt, you want to set up 4 of the drone miners around an ore sort of location. And then if it is the xenoferrite that they are mining, then what you want to do is when it comes to smelters, you are going to input the xenoferrite and you are going to get metal plates on your output. But what these smelters do is they produce 1 every 3 seconds, so it's 20 per minute. So in order to have maximum efficiency on a tier 1 setup, what you would do is have 4 drone miners, you would then have your conveyor belt, and you would feed it into 8 smelters. And that is going to make sure that your conveyor belt is pretty much always full up. You've got the most amount of xenoferrite being mined in order to actually have your conveyor belts working, and the perfect amount of smelters to have all of that ore being smelted into metal plates. And metal plates and the Technum rods are really, really important, especially at the start of the game. You'll see in this machine, we have 200 metal plates, but that is pretty much all we have because these machines are constantly outputting them. They're going along here into this machine, which is making machine parts, which are then being split to go into these assemblers, and these are working on, if we get all the way around here, these along with the rods are making the science packs, which then come out the back and go into our research servers, so that when we want to research something new, we have the science packs ready to go. So that is my ultimate beginner guide, some tips and tricks to help you guys out when it comes to the factory automation in the game Foundry. The game gets a lot more complex than this. You eventually go to having full-on power grids and stuff. You get tier 3 machines. There's a lot of research and stuff to do, but hopefully this video will help you guys get up and running and make progress into tier 2 and stuff and understand some of the mechanics of the game. So what we are going to do on that note is leave the video there. Let me know your thoughts and stuff about this game in the comments. I will see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope the video helped you out. Thank you for watching.